Yeah, our Father, Messiah, and Holy Spirit be with us. I believe I'm on 16. We'll see though. Oh, based off of what I remember reading. hmm Yeah. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, but I'm on 16. Once Shimshan, hopefully you guys can hear me. Once Shimshan went to Gaza, there he met a whore and slept with her. The Gazites. The Gazites learned that Shimshan had come there, so they gathered and lay in ambush for him in the town gate the whole night. And all night long they kept whispering to each other, when daylight comes, we'll kill him. But Shimshon lay in bed only till midnight. At midnight he got up, grasped the doors of the town gate together with the two gateposts, and pulled them out along with the bar. He placed them on his shoulders and carried them off to the top of the hill that is near Hebron. After that he fell in love with the woman in the Wadi Sarep named Delilah. The masters of the Philistines went up to her and said, coax him and find out what makes him so strong, how we can overpower him, to tie him up and make him helpless, and we'll each give you 1,100 shekels of silver. So Delilah said to Shimshon, tell me what makes you so strong, and how could you be tied up and made helpless? She then took a bribe. Shimshon replied, if I were to be tied with 7 fresh tendons that had not been dried, I should become as weak as an ordinary man. So the masters of the Philistines brought up to her 7 fresh tendons that had not been dried. She bound him with them while an ambush was waiting in her room. Then she called out to Shimshon, the Philistines are upon you. Whereat he pulled the tendons apart as a strain of tow comes apart at the touch of fire. So the secret of his strength remained unknown. Then Delilah said to Shimshon, oh, you deceived me, you lied to me. You tell me now how you could be tied up. He said, if I were to be bound with new ropes that had never been used, I will become as weak as an ordinary man. So Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them while an ambush was waiting in a room. And she cried, Shimshon, the Philistines are upon you. But he tore them off his arms like a thread. Then Delilah said to Shimshon, you have been deceiving me all along. You have been lying to me. Tell me, how could you be tied up? He answered me, if you weave 7 locks of my head into the web. And she pinned it with a peg and cried to him, Shimshon, the Philistines are upon you. Awaking from his sleep, he pulled out the peg, the loom, and the web. Then she said to him, how can you say you love me when you don't confide in me? This makes 3 times that you deceived me and haven't told me what makes you so strong. Finally, after she had nagged him and pressed him constantly, he was weary to death, and he confided everything to her. And he said to her, no razor has ever touched my head, for I have been a Nazarite to Elohim since I was in my mother's womb. If my hair were cut, my strength would leave me, and I should become as weak as an ordinary man. Sensing that he had confided everything to her, Delilah sent for the masters of the Philistines with this message, come up once more, for he has confided everything to me. And the masters of the Philistines came up and brought the money with them. She lured him to sleep on her lap. This is sad. Then she called in a man, and she had him cut off the 7 locks of his head. Thus she weakened him and made him helpless. His strength slipped away from him. She cried, Shimshon, the Philistines are upon you. And he awoke from his sleep, thinking he would break loose and shake himself free as he had the other times, for he did not know that the master had departed from him. The Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes. They brought him down to Gaza and shackled him in bronze fetters, and he became a male slave in the prison. After his hair was cut off, it began to grow back. Now the masters of the Philistines gathered to offer a great sacrifice to their deity Dagon and to make merry. They chanted, our deity has delivered into our hands our enemy Shimshon. When the people saw him, they sang praises to their deity, chanting, our deity has delivered into our hands the enemy who devastated our land and who slew so many of us. As their spirits rose, they said, call Shimshon here and let him dance for us. Shimshon was fetched from the prison, and he danced for them. Then they put him between the pillars, and Shimshon said to the boy who was leading him by the hand, Let go of me, and let me feel the pillars that the temple rests upon, that I may lean on them. Now the temple was full of men and women. All the masters of the Philistines were there, and there were some 3,000 men and women on the roof watching Shimshon dance. Then Shimshon called to the master, O master, our Father in heaven, Elohim, please remember me and give me strength just this once. O master, our Father in heaven, to take revenge on the Philistines, if only for one of my two eyes. He embraced the two middle pillars that the temple rested upon, one with his right arm and one with his left, and leaned against them. So Shimshon cried, let me die with the Philistines. And he pulled with all his might. The temple came crashing down on the masters and all the people in it. Those who were slain by him as he died outnumbered those who had been slain by him when he lived. His brothers and all his father's household came down and carried him up and buried him in the tomb of his father Manoah between Zorah and Eshtaol. He had led Yisrael for 20 years. There was a man in the hill country of Ephraim whose name was Micah. He said to his mother, the 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, so that you uttered an imprecation, cursing anyone who knew the whereabouts of the silver and did not disclose of it, which you repeated in my hearing. I have the silver. I took it. Blessed of our Father in heaven be my son, said his mother. He returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother, but his mother said, I herewith consecrate the silver to our Father in heaven, transferring it to my son to make a sculptured image and a molten image. I now return it to you. So when he gave the silver back to his mother took 200 shekels of silver and gave it to a smith. He made of it a sculptured image and a molten image, which were kept in the house of Micah. Now the man Micah had a house of Elohim. He had made an ephod and teraphim, and he had inducted one of his sons to be his priest. In those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did as he pleased. There was a young man from Bethlehem of Yehudah, from the clan seat of Yehudah. He was a Levite and had resided there as a sojourner. This man had left the town of Bethlehem of Yehudah to take up residence wherever he could find a place. On his way he came to the house of Micah in the hill country of Ephraim. Where do you come from? Micah asked him. He replied, I am a Levite from Bethlehem of Yehudah, and I am traveling to take up residence wherever I can find a place. Stay with me, Micah said to him, and be a father and a priest to me, and I will pay you 10 shekels of silver a year in allowance of clothing and your food. The Levite went. The Levite agreed to stay with the man, and the youth became like one of his own sons. Micah inducted the Levite, and the young man became his priest and remained in Micah's shrine. Now I know, Micah told himself, that our Father in heaven will prosper me, since the Levite had become my priest. In those days there was no king in Israel, and in those days the tribe of Dan was seeking a territory in which to settle. For to that day no territory had fallen to their lot among the tribes of Israel. The Danites set out 5 of their number from their clan seat at Zorah and Eshtaol Valley and men to spy out the land and explore it. Go, they told them, and explored the land. When they had advanced into the hill country of Ephraim, as far as the house of Micah, they stopped there for the night. While in the vicinity of Micah's house, they recognized the speech of the young Levite. So they went over and asked him, who brought you to these parts? What are you doing in this place? What is your business here? He replied, thus and thus Micah did for me. He hired me, and I became his priest. They said to him, please inquire of Elohim. He would like to know if the mission on which we are going will be successful. Go in peace. The priest said to them, our Father in heaven views with favor the mission that you are going on. The 5 men went on and came to Laish. They observed the people in a dwelling carefree, after the manner of the Sidonians, a tranquil and unsuspecting people, with no one in the land to molest them and with the no hereditary ruler. Moreover, they were distant from the Sidonians and had no dealings with anybody. When the men came back to their kinsmen at Zorah and Eshtaol, their kinsmen asked them, how did you fare? They replied, let us go at once and attack them, for we found that the land was very good. And you are sitting idle? Don't delay. Go and invade the land and take possession of it, for Elohim has delivered it into your hand. When you come, you will come to an unsuspecting people, and the land is spacious, and nothing on earth is lacking there. They departed from there from the clan seat of the Danites, from Zorah and Eshtaol, 600 strong, girt with weapons of war. They went up and encamped at Kiriath Yaraim and Yehudah. That is why that place is called the Camp of Dan. To this day, it lies west of Kiriath Yearim. From there, they passed on to the hill country of Ephraim and arrived at the house of Micah. Here, the 5 men who had gone to spy out the land, the Laish region, remarked to their kinsmen, "Do you know there is an ephod in their houses? And teraphim, and a sculptured image, and a molten image. Now you know what you have to do." So they turned off there and entered the home of the young Levite at Micah's house and greeted him. The 600 Denite men, girt with their weapons of war, stood at the entrance of the gate, while the 5 men who had gone to spy out the land went inside and took the sculptured image, the ephod, the teraphim, and the molten image. The priest was standing at the entrance of the gate, and the 600 men, girt with their weapons of war, while those men entered Micah's house and took the sculptured image, the molten image, the ephod, and the household deities. The priest said to them, "What are you doing?" But they said to him, "Be quiet, put your hand on your mouth, come with us and be our father and priest. Would you rather be priest to one man's household or be priest to a tribe and clan in Yisrael?" The priest was delighted. He took the ephod, the household deities, and the sculptured image, and he joined the people. They set out again, placing the children, the cattle, and their household goods in front. They had already gone some distance from Micah's house when the men in the houses near Micah's mustered and caught up with the Danites. They called out to the Danites, who turned around and said to Micah, "What's the matter? Why have you mustered?" He said, "You have taken my priests and the deities that I made and walked off. What do I have left? How can you ask what's the matter?" But the Danites replied, "Don't do anything. Don't do any shouting at us, or some desperate men might attack you, and you and your family will lose your lives." So Micah, realizing that they were stronger than he, turned back and went home, and the Danites went on their way. Taking the things Micah had made and the priests he had acquired, they proceeded to Laish, a people tranquil and unsuspecting, and they put them to the sword and burned down the town. There was none to come to the rescue, for it was distant from Seadon, and they had no dealings with anyone. It lay in the valley of Beth Rahab. They rebuilt the town and settled there, and they named the town Dan after their ancestor Dan, who was Israel's son. Originally, however, the name of the town was Laish. The Danites set up the sculptured image for themselves, and Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Manasseh, Hebrew, was suspended in dicting an earlier reading Moshe. I'm just reading what was at the bottom. And his descendants served as priests to the Danite tribe until the land went into exile. They maintained Immodation Yields and his attended the sculptured image that Micah had made throughout the time that the house of Elohim stood at Shiloh. May our Father and Son and Holy Spirit with us. Father willing, I'm going to give me a nice jog in. Think about and reflect on the week. Peace and love, brothers and sisters. Love you all. May our Father and Son and Holy Spirit with us. Amen.